Welcome to the Fear and Greed Afternoon Report for Monday the 28th of November 2022. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1. The S&P ASX 200 closed the day down 0.4% to 7,229 points. Mostly the negativity reflected what's going on in China with a growing number of COVID cases and protests. The energy sector fell back as oil prices hit their lowest level since 2021 on the back of the China turmoil. Santos and Woodside Energy both dropped 2.7%. Lithium stocks continued their decline of late last week for the same reasons, China. Liontown Resources was off 7.5%, while Lake Resources was down 5%. Among the large caps, Diversified Miners South32 and Goldig and Newcrest Mining were both off nearly 2%, while Westpac, Wesfarmers and Rio Tinto all dropped more than 1%. The tech stocks were among the best performers on the bourse today, with WiseTech Global up 1% and REA Group nearly 2% higher. Story number 2, plenty of corporate news around today. The board of the Bank of Queensland said the lender's CEO, George Frazis, is leaving, effective immediately. That triggered a 5.6% drop in its share price. They basically said he wasn't the right man for the job going forward, though he had done a pretty good job over the past 3 years. Atlas Arteria said it had received regulatory approvals to acquire 66.67% majority interest in the Chicago Skyway. That's a big toll road in Illinois. Helios dropped 10% after reporting that lower COVID-19 testing volumes have weighed on revenue. BWX has further delayed the release of its fiscal year 22 audited financial statements after it engaged strategic advisors to assist with finding some additional debt funding. The group CFO has also resigned, and Brambles has entered into an agreement to combine the pallet and automotive pooling operations of CHEP China with Loscam Greater China. Its share price rose 0.5%. Story number 3, Acciona Energia will build a new $2 billion wind farm west of Brisbane, providing considerable impetus to the Sunshine State's efforts to be 80% renewable by 2035. The 1,000 megawatt Herries Range wind farm will be built near Warwick, that's about 150 kilometres southwest of Brisbane. The precinct will now have renewables projects worth $4 billion on site and a combined total power of 2,000 megawatt of renewable energy, which is enough to power about 1.4 million homes. The Herries Range wind farm, which will have 180 turbines, will be the company's third clean energy project in Queensland. State Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk said the Acciona deal showed the state was a frontrunner in attracting international investment in the race to net zero by 2050. Story number 4. I've spoken plenty about Whitehaven Coal and its peers, mostly because the price of coal is so high and the energy company's share prices are at record levels. Today, Whitehaven was at it again with its share price rising 4%. And that's despite the group's chair, former Deputy Prime Minister Mark Vaile, selling 200,000 shares for about $1.8 billion. Remember, last week, the CEO, Paul Flynn, sold 900,000 shares for nearly $8 million, which sent the group's share price lower. Investors don't like seeing the top brass selling shares because, presumably, they only do it when they think the share price is outperforming. The reality is a bit different. Often a strong run in a share price might mean an executive ends up with a tax bill, or maybe they've got to pay the school fees. Mostly execs are restricted about when they can buy or sell, hence they trade when they can. The upshot of all this is that Whitehaven rose again today, and it's up about 300% over the past year. And story number 5, a cargo of Australian LNG has berthed at the port of Rotterdam, possibly the first time a local cargo of LNG has made it to Europe for sale. After leaving the Woodside Energy-run Northwest Shelf export terminal near Karratha on October 29, the shipment arrived in the Dutch port last Saturday, according to consultancy Energy Quest. A report in the Financial Review says the length of the trip, 11,000 nautical miles, typically precludes LNG produced in Australia being exported to Europe. Mostly just goes to places like Japan, China and South Korea. But these aren't normal times, and Woodside has signed supply deals with European customers to help fill the hole left by the ban on Russian exports. That's it for the afternoon report for Monday, the 28th of November, 2022. Michael Thompson and I will be back tomorrow morning with the Tuesday edition of Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.